I would like to address just a couple of misunderstandings about what people have regarding Hume's guillotine, something you and I kind of mentioned. And I want to help people to understand objective morality from the secular position, because I debate this topic all the time, not just with Christians, but also with fellow atheists who are into philosophy, because they believe that morality is subjective. Now, I want to be very clear, whether morality is objective or subjective doesn't really matter, because it's a fun thing for us to think about and to debate in philosophy. What really matters is how are we going to treat each other, right? That's really what's important. So as far as objective versus subjective, this is just a way to discuss philosophy and some wonderful ideas. And I hear people misunderstand the conversation completely around morality, because people say, well, what is morality grounded in? How can it be objective? What's it grounded in? And that's a very simple answer. But what happens is people shift the conversation from the grounding of morality, which is an ontological question, or the ontology, right, to the normative, what ought we do and ought not do. So we need to understand that those are two different concepts. The grounding of something and the normative claim are not the same conversation. We can ground morality objectively in nature and the laws of cause and effect and evolution. We evolved to be a social species. So this is our grounding right here. And there's mind independent. And so it's objective. To get to the normative, the what ought we do, sometimes we have to deal with what's called Hume's guillotine. It's known as the is ought problem, right? And there's a whole conversation to be had around that. Richard Carrier has done a wonderful job of breaking this down for people to help them understand that. And he relies on Kant to do this, actually. So that's really what Carrier is leading into, is Immanuel Kant's attack of Hume, using the hypothetical imperative. When we incorporate the if, we know how to get the ought from the is. And the truth of the matter, as Carrier has pointed out, almost all of our oughts actually come down to an is at some point, right? Because everything is ultimately going to be based in some objective truth. So to say you cannot get an ought from an is a misunderstanding of Hume and a misunderstanding of how any ought comes to be. So we incorporate the hypothetical imperative, and Richard Carrier has a famous example which works really well. If a surgeon wants to perform a successful surgery, he ought to sterilize his equipment, right? So whether or not the surgeon wants to perform the successful surgery is subjective, but it's safe to assume that a surgeon does want to do this because they invest a lot of money. They sign a Hippocratic oath that says, I will do no harm, and so on and so forth. But we cannot say 100% that's going to be their goal, because all goals are subjective, right? So it is a subjective goal that the surgeon does want to perform the successful surgery. Once that goal is established, you can get objective facts, because objective is both stance independent, or any true fact is also objective, right? So it's a true fact that sterilizing your surgical equipment is significantly going to reduce your chance of introducing an infection. So you have objective facts attached to a subjective goal. The facts themselves, the action of what he's going to do is sterilize his equipment. When it comes to morality, morality is not a goal. People misunderstand this. Morality is an action. It's ought. What ought I do or ought not do? That's specifically talking about action, verbs, adverbs, right? We're going to attach it to a noun. What ought I do? The goal is subjective. Now, the goal that relates to morality is cooperation. So if we want to live in a society that focuses on cooperation, I ought not steal from people. And I can get that becomes an objective fact. So we can get to the normative of what we ought not do using true facts, which are objective. So we have objective morality, the grounding, and we have the objective morality as the normative behavior when we go through the hypothetical imperative.